Welcome to the Explainer. You know those little fun facts you hear about different countries? Well, today, we're going to show you how those seemingly trivial bits of information are actually windows into the deep forces of geography, history, and culture that really shape our world.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We're going to start with a puzzle, one that kind of challenges the very idea of what a border even is.
Yeah, it looks like this. Would you look at that? That's a town where the border literally runs right through cafes and even people's living rooms. Welcome to Baarle, this bizarre mashup of Belgium and the Netherlands. Now, this isn't some modern mistake. It's a living, breathing relic of medieval feudalism. We're talking about 22 Belgian enclaves inside the Netherlands. And then, get this, 7 Dutch counter-enclaves inside those. The nationality of a building is literally decided by which country its front door is in. It's just a perfect example of how messy history can create modern absurdity.
So yeah, that completely bonkers border is the perfect entry point for our first big idea today: geography's strange logic. We're going to talk about how the physical world, the land itself, creates these political absurdities, but also some really serious imperatives.
So, at one extreme, you just have sheer, mind-boggling scale. Take Russia. We are talking about 17.1 million square kilometers. To put that in perspective, that's so vast it's actually larger than the entire surface of the planet Pluto. A country this massive faces a constant geographical challenge. How on earth do you control and connect such an immense territory?
And then, at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got Vatican City. It's an enclave city-state that's smaller than Central Park in New York. So you see the difference, right? For Russia, the strategic challenge is all about projecting power, about control and integration. But for the Vatican, its challenge is just sheer survival, totally dependent on its one and only neighbor, Italy.
But speaking of giant countries, you'd think the biggest one has the most time zones, right? Well, here's a little twist for you. Russia's huge, it has 11, but the country with the most time zones is actually France, with 12. So how's that possible? Well, it's not because of its size in Europe. It's because of all the far-flung remnants of its colonial empire, places like French Polynesia that are legally just as much a part of France as Paris is. It stretches its presence all across the globe.
You know, geography doesn't just create weird quirks. It can create these huge existential challenges. A place like Saudi Arabia, for instance, is one of about 20 nations with no permanent rivers. Zero. Their survival depends on this really dangerous feedback loop. They have to burn their primary export, fossil fuels, to power desalination plants that make fresh water. But that process, of course, contributes to the very climate change that makes their already arid region even more vulnerable.
And this is a great illustration of the crucial difference between longest and largest. In the US, you've got Mammoth Cave. It's the longest cave system in the world, an incredibly intricate network, a web of passages stretching over 680 kilometers, all carved by slowly seeping water. But then you have Hang Son Doong in Vietnam. It's the largest, a single colossal chamber carved by a powerful underground river. It's so vast you could literally fit a 40-story skyscraper inside. It's a story of geological complexity versus sheer geological power.
Okay, so we've talked about the land itself. Now let's shift to the people living on it. Because when we start looking at demographics, we find one of the most profound, dramatic forces that is absolutely reshaping our world.
And really, we're seeing this massive split, this great demographic divide. On one side, you've got a country like Niger, the youngest on Earth. The median age there is just 15. Think about that. That creates a huge youth bulge, putting an incredible strain on resources. On the other side, you've got places like Japan and Monaco. They're aging nations, facing what's called a gray tsunami that threatens the collapse of their pension and healthcare systems.
But the most extreme case of this aging trend, the one that really makes you stop and think, is South Korea. Look at this number, 0.68. That's its total fertility rate. Now, for a population to just stay stable, you need a rate of about 2.1. South Korea's number, well, it isn't just a statistic. It is a demographic time bomb.
So what does this actually mean? Well, it's staggering. A rate this low mathematically implies the country's population could be cut in half within a single generation. By 2062, it's projected that 1 out of every 2 South Koreans will be over the age of 65. This is a potential population collapse on a scale we've just never seen before in a developed nation at peace.
So how do societies organize themselves? The answers are often hidden in plain sight, in what you could call their cultural codes, their languages, their laws, even their daily habits. Let's start with language. In Papua New Guinea, you have over 840 languages spoken, the most in the world.
And that's really just a passive accident of its rugged geography, which kept communities isolated. But then you have Bolivia, which has the most official languages, 37 of them. And that wasn't an accident at all. That was an active, modern political statement in its 2009 constitution, designed to recognize and empower its indigenous peoples.
And sometimes a whole alphabet is invented for a specific political purpose. For Armenia, back in 405 AD, it was a tool of cultural defense, a way to resist being absorbed by larger empires. But for Korea's King Sejong in the 15th century, it was a tool of internal empowerment, a super scientific alphabet so easy to learn it could dramatically raise literacy rates among everybody.
And what about all those bizarre old laws you hear about? Like the famous one that says London black cabs legally have to carry a bale of hay. Well, turns out it's a complete myth. The reality is that an old law for horse-drawn carriages was actually designed to stop traffic jams caused by horses feeding in the street.
And it's the same kind of deal with the unwritten cappuccino rule in Italy. Never order one after 11 a.m. It sounds like snobbery, but it's not. It's actually rooted in a widely held cultural belief about digestion. The heavy, milky cappuccino is seen as a breakfast thing, while the quick espresso after a meal is thought to help digestion. It's cultural logic, not just etiquette.
All right, let's move into our final section and look at how modern nations really build their identity, using economics and engineering to leave their unique signature on the world.
This is so fascinating. A country's popular image often completely hides its true economic engine. We think of Iceland and we picture fishing and tourism, right? But its top export is actually aluminum. Why? Because its real export is the incredibly cheap renewable geothermal energy you need to smelt it. Same thing with Mexico. We think tourism, but it's a critical manufacturing hub for cars. And Italy, famous for fashion and food, is a European powerhouse in pharmaceuticals. And of course, another way nations make their mark is through monumental engineering. Case in point, the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa. It's a feat that's only possible because of this one absolutely brilliant structural concept.
This Y-shaped design is the secret sauce. Those three wings act as buttresses for the central core, making the whole thing incredibly stable against the wind. But here's the thing, it's not just a cool building. It was a very deliberate act of national branding. A project designed to pivot Dubai's identity away from just oil and towards a future built on finance and tourism.
So what this all comes down to is that these facts, a bizarre border, a strange cultural rule, a hidden top export, they are never just trivia. They are the visible clues, the data points that point to the invisible systems that are really running the world.
They are clues that invite us to look deeper. So the next time you hear a surprising fact about a country, ask yourself, if that's the answer, what was the real question? What invisible force of geography, history, or culture made this visible? And what does it tell you about the world?